Hello and welcome to the Speak to Lead podcast. Today I'm speaking to Kavya, and we're going to have a conversation particularly around cultural differences, cultural values between Indian culture and Australian culture, in particular, how one goes about communicating, speaking up in negotiations, and Kavya's journey and experience with those two different cultures. So, welcome, Kavya, to the podcast. Firstly, it'd be great if you can let the listeners and watchers know who you are and where you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for introducing me, Joel. So my name is Kavya. I'm based in Melbourne now for last 5 to 6 years. My background is I studied my civil engineering from India and came to Australia for doing my master's. So after my master's, obviously I got my job, and my first job was in a transport industry. So that's where my background is with my profession is. Other than that, as a personal thing, I'm a person who loves to read books, listen music, and watch interviews because I'm a great fan of listening to stories from people. I like listening to stories. So yeah, um, and I'm really excited to be in this podcast because this is my first time getting interviewed other than in a professional setting.
Nice. Yeah. Well, it's great to speak with you. Is the desire to you're now in the Speak to Lead program and you're really working to up your game as far as communication goes. Is part of the motivation around that because you like listening to interviews and you want to be able to present yourself effectively, or what's the desire there to do this sort of program?
Yeah, the desire comes from how, from childhood, I'm a person who just listen to the stories. I'm an ambivert, so when um I'm with my personal close friends or my family, I'm an extrovert. I'll just randomly joke on things and I'll just exaggerate everything and make those big stories to them, dramatic stories. Um, but while I come as a person to the work, I'm an introvert. I don't speak to anyone because mostly because of the cultural background that I come from, it's quite different how it was in India and it is in Australia. So, yeah, um, I've been trying to increase that confidence to speak to anyone that comes to me, because right now I'm in that journey where feel that I need to improve so much in my workplace, and that's where, yeah, I landed with Ben at Speak to Lead.
What are those differences, those between the cultures that make you so extroverted with your friends, but so introverted at work? What's the reason there?
Yeah, I think I have this feeling of being judged by people when I speak to a person from a different cultural background because the way they see, especially in India, we treat the workplace as a place we see as a strict communication, like where there is a kind of hierarchy and as well as a build, a fear, everything in a workplace. But in Australia, it's more like open communication and they treat everything with respect and clarity and they value openness so much. Because when I came to Australia and started working in Australian industry, the first shock that I had was that how people addressed elderly people. Uh, in India, we call the elderly people as sir or madam, and we have specific call out names for calling a brother or sister
Mm.
rather than their names. But when it came to Australia, when I called my first manager as sir, he was like, don't call me sir. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. So, yeah, so that kind of shocked me first, whether I'm doing something right or if I'm being impolite to them. So I think that kind of cultural differences actually um, have caused issues in my workplace. So that's the trigger. That's the trigger
Mm.
how I'm here. Yeah.
Interesting. And like in Indian culture, you say there's like a real hierarchy and it's very strict communication. Did that mean, or does that mean, okay, I don't know how much experience you've had in the workplace in India, but did you struggle in India to sort of communicate or to speak up, or is that just, not something that happens there in general?
It's not something that happens there in general. Like, my experience in India is mostly how I've been taught, like mostly my primary education, secondary, my university. So there are professors who would guide you through, or you would ask you to do stuff, and you would just blindly hear it and obey. So it's more like a lot of discipline, a lot of theory, but the connection that we have with teachers, or the way we speak to teachers, is out of politeness and respect. We don't have that area where we say, I don't like this, or maybe that's not for me. We don't say that to teachers. It's like seen as something rude. So, yeah. So when it comes to my Australian workplace, when I see people say no to managers or no to colleagues politely, it amuses me because I feel guilty for saying no.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you feel like you've basically got a whole lot more freedom to communicate the way that you want to in Australia, but then your kind of your programming or the habits and stuff that you've had from your schooling now carries over and stops you from interacting with other people in the workforce in the same way that Australians interact with their managers. Is that what's kind of happening?
Yeah, exactly. That's what's happening, and that's what I would like to change.
So it sounds more like it's not so much that you struggle with assertiveness, but more that you struggle with what you believe to be polite or polite, I suppose, and respectful of other people, and you're struggling to make that change in Australia and in this Australian workforce.
Yeah, the issue is that the role that I work in railway industry is like a coordinator. So it's basically like dealing two parties. So I have a design team who would just say no to everything that they are asked for. And there is other party who's like the design approver who would just say no to everything design provides. So it's like I'll be the one who should be juggling these high stake situations and high stake meeting where people just treat the meetings as a battlefield. So that's where I am sitting right now, where I would be taking a stance to calm them down, or I would be taking a stance to just make someone do their work. Um, so what in the area that I came from, there is everything done smoothly. Like if someone says to do it, the other person would just obey and do it. And now I'm sitting in a position where everyone said no to each other, and I would be the one who should be making this work.
So you're really are you struggling to kind of make I suppose make people do the things that they need to do in the role that you're in now?
Yeah, that's where I need to be assertive. That's where I need to improve as well. So as a person, I'm more like polite, calm, asking them, requesting them. But um, in Australians are generally like, you should do it, mate. And I would be just, could you please do it? So yeah, so that's the kind of area that I would just to change myself or transfer myself to, juggle these things in situations. I think it's not only about the role, but anywhere that I would just move through in Australia. I think people are just very frank and open when they really wants to disagree, and I think I kind of admire it because I never knew it and I would like to learn it.
It's quite the I suppose it's one of those things if you have the ability or you feel that you can you can be frank or you can be strict or um firm with other people, then you can decide whether to use it or not. But if you don't feel like you're capable of that, then you're only kind of left with one option, which is to be very passive. So
Yeah.
it's it's cool. I think it's really cool that you've recognized that that's something that's perhaps holding you back from being as effective as possible, and now you're like, okay, I want to do something about this. I was wondering if you had like a story about maybe there's a situation that you can think of where not standing up or not speaking up has led to maybe a project being taking too long or not going the way it needed to? Do you have any stories of something where for you it stood out as like, oh, no, I really need to kind of step up my game here?
Yeah, sure. Like I have that like every day. I have hundreds
Oh.
of it, so I'm confused which one to take. Yeah, I had this one meeting few months ago, where design, as obviously we are people who work in rail industry, and there was like a bridge which had a very low height, and you know how bridges with low height have low clearance signage, so trucks can't go through it. And the designer, the party I was talking about, actually put the signage in the drawings with a glue, because it's a last minute request and they wanted to do it as soon as possible without any increase in cost. And we submitted that to the design approver, and he came to us in a meeting and said he can't um he can't adjust to it, or he can't approve it because it's only glue, it can fall off. And he wanted us to stick that clearance sign into the bridge with a bolt. And designers, and as who are the members of the project, didn't want to do it because that would cost like $100,000 to change it in every bridge. It's not just one bridge. There's like
Right.
bridges across the projects we have to change, and we were not quite happy with it. So I had to juggle through these meetings with the design approver, and our team, to discuss about it and settle it um, to a resolution. The first meeting we discussed this and it failed, and we postponed it to the next week. And it started following up like this. It took a lot of time. And after three meetings, and design approval just came to us and said, "Look, mate, I'm not going to do it unless you change it." So everyone was really stressed out, and we didn't had any money to do that. And lastly, my manager and our team had a internal session, thinking about what we can do. And we add in the client who really approves everything. And he came into the meeting and he said he won't accept it either. So that's a meeting that made us, or took us a lot of time to decide a solution. Um, and ultimately, we had to change the drawing, even though it costed the project a lot. I think as a team, it was more about the safety rather than money sometimes. And yeah, and we had to do that. So that's one of the 100 stories I have. How a meeting ended like after a month.
So, if I understand it correctly, what came out the end was that it just simply wasn't going to be acceptable to glue it, and you had to. So who was the one that then had to kind of cave and accept it, accept the extra cost? Was it you, or was it a different
It's
party?
a project. It's a project. Like every project have certain budget to everything. Like if this for bridge, they have some money allocated to it. So anything like this which came at the last minute, we have to get it approved. So we have we had to go back to the cost controller, ask them to release some money for us, because the person didn't approve it. And yeah, and since client didn't approve it, we didn't had much choice, and we had to go back and change it.
Okay. What in that same situation, what do you think would have really like helped? What what would have your if you were more assertive in that situation, what would have you what would you have done differently that would have perhaps prevented that situation or made it better?
Yeah, if I could have said no to the designer at the first place, these months of negotiation and meetings would have been avoided.
The
Um,
designer who wanted to glue
yeah,
the sign.
yeah,
Ah, okay.
yeah, because we work as a project with the designer, and designer approver is another company. So we have to work with the team, whether we think that's right or not. It's as a coordinator, I need to stick with the team. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the difficult part of negotiation as well, like taking sides even though we don't necessarily agree with them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose that's that element where you're trying not to rock the boat too much, but sometimes you still need to captain it.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
Yeah.
Right.
Perfectly
Right.
said.
um, yeah, I can imagine. It's something that I've also struggled in the past with. Is that being assertive and sort of shifting how you perceive being firm in negotiations, because it's very easy to think like, oh, I don't want to upset people. I want to
Mm,
mediate, you know, everybody and kind of not step on any toes. But it's interesting when you have examples like the one that you just shared, where you can notice, right, this is counterproductive. You know, the way that I need to change something, because by not stepping on toes, really I'm just, kind of annoying everybody, and the drawn out process is not benefiting anybody.
yeah, right.
So what do you see as the main hurdle for yourself? Like, what is it that you're really trying to work on, and what do you think is kind of the thing that you need to get over?
Um, in my workplace, and what I'm trying with Ben as well is to say no politely.
Mm,
And so we have learned so much frameworks together. So one of them is a silk method where someone asked me to do a work outside of my business hours. I can use this method. So this is a fantastic method. Ben told me was that silk method. It's called silk, SILK,
hmm
where S stands for show respect. I stand for identify a constraint. L stands for link to a shared goal, and K stands for keep your door open. So that's something Ben taught me. When
mm,
someone asks you to do something, first validate your respect towards them and then tell about the constraints that you have, saying like, I have work, I'm pretty packed with my work today, maybe we can do Monday, something like that, and then share it to a link, or like tell them that we really want to do the work, but it's because that we are very packed, we can't do the work. So making them understand that it's not just a no, straight away no, but just massaging it in a way that people really understand your side, and asking them whether we can do it together or we can split the work. So things like questions at the end really make them think what we can do as a team rather
mm.
than one person saying no and other person just getting upset because of it.
I really like that expression that you used, massaging,
Mhm.
massaging the no. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great. I think that frameworks like that are so good, especially not even in a not just in a work sense, but also I think are related to like relationships and communicating with your partner, and kind of being able
yeah,
to say like, you know, look, I acknowledge what you're requesting. I respect it. Here's why. My answer is this. Here's why. Providing that sort of context, and then also reorienting it from the no to how can we work together to get it to a solution that would benefits us both. And that's such a yeah. What a cool framework. I'm gonna take note of that Silk framework.
yeah.
Have you applied that yet in any situations at work? Like, have you actually used it and found any success with it?
Yeah, definitely. Quite a few times it has helped me. So I have a colleague of mine who just don't want to do admin works. Yeah, he doesn't like to do it. He's good at communication and building relationship around stakeholders, but when it comes to admin works, he doesn't really like it, and everybody knows it. So he just asks the other colleagues to work through around it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to do sometimes to because he doesn't like, and that's something I really enjoy. But sometimes if tasks come up on a Friday evening and we can't do it, and I'll be already in my Friday mode, and then I would just have used this silk method where I said, "Hey Peter, I think it's yeah, I understand and acknowledging what he really wants to do, and then telling him that I'm pretty packed and it's a Friday evening, so can we just shift this to maybe end of next week, so when I have time we can work together. So it really helped me to increase that trust and relationship with the colleagues as well. So instead of saying a no, they really understand you. And next time when they ask about you, ask to you to do a work, they will be mindful on what they are asking and also help us to build relationships.
That's really powerful. So they actually, not only are you working towards a solution in that specific situation, but you're actually building that awareness in the other person so that you decrease the number of times that you have to be in that situation in the first place. That's really cool. Yeah, yeah. I love that. I'm curious. I just wanted to touch back regarding the cultural differences in India, because I was wondering, how do, say you're in that sort of situation in India, um, how do you negotiate? You mentioned at the beginning that people would just say something, and what has been said must be done, sort of thing. But there must be situations where negotiating is necessary. Maybe it's in a high stakes situation, or something like that. How would that process look in India?
Mm, the process would be just saying yes, I can do
Okay.
that.
So that's simple.
Yeah.
But saying yes and then following through, or do people sort of say yes and then, basically just don't follow through with their agreement?
Yeah, they would just say yes and follow through because they really um value what elders ask them to do. So if there's a manager or person in a power who asks them to do something, they would obey, even though they don't have time. They find that um as something that they needs to do as a duty. And that's the kind of culture that's been imprinted on us from the
Uh,
childhood. Yeah, if you have you don't if you don't like apple, and if your mother or father asks you to eat apple, you should be eating apple.
I guess in that situation, you've got to, especially in the workforce, I imagine, you've got to make sure that the people in charge actually know what they're doing. Otherwise, you're going to end up with decision makers who are making poor decisions all the time with no pushback.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's So what I said is mostly like the 60% of how Indian culture works in the workplace, but it's slowly changing with how people, how say Gen Z or Gen Alpha, how those kids actually get into the workplace and they
Mm.
actually started saying no to the things that they really don't like to do. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's a cute change that's happening around the workplace in India, which I think is cool.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So it's not just because I know that's a thing in Europe and places like that, Australia certainly, that the younger generations are much more combative. Combative is maybe too negatively connotated, but like you say, they say no to things that they don't want to do. It's interesting to hear that that's also happening in India, even where the culture is so much more aligned with, agreeing and respecting elders. Interesting. It'll be cool to see how that develops over the next years. We've got a couple more minutes left before we wrap up, but I wanted to know, you've started this journey. Now, how long have you been doing the Speak to Lead program so far?
Mm, I really don't remember that in top of my mind. I've been working with Ben for like last 6 months, maybe from June. So in Speak to Lead program, it started 2 months before. Yeah, so it's 2 months of journey now. Yeah.
How do you feel when it comes to the progress that you have made over the course of, let's just speak about the Speak to Lead program, the progress that you've made from the start to where you are now, and compared to where you'd ultimately like to get? How far along that journey are you, do you think?
I think I have still a lot to learn, but I feel confident than I was when I joined and um, studied the frameworks with Ben. Yeah, I was a person who would just break down for people who've been passive aggressive with me,
Mm.
and so I have learned a lot to be more controlled of what happens during the meeting. And I have learned not to take things personally when people say no to me as well. So that's a bit of um, learning that I had in these months of works with Ben. And maybe in 6 months from now, I really want me to see as a person, a confident communicator who's like assertive speaker who can just join the meeting and persuade people in. I know it's a big wish, but still, to get to say yes into the meeting, to be saying no politely to them, to be having that awkward conversation without having that guilt or, the cultural difference I have in my mind. So that's where I really wish me to be in this
Right.
journey.
Yeah. Striking the right balance between assertiveness or, saying what needs to be said, but also, respecting the way that you also like to do things as well,
Yeah,
and
right.
trying to be, being respectful. Yeah. I love that. So that's where you're hoping to be in 6 months time, did you say? You kind of, that's the goal.
Yeah, that's my goal.
It's a beautiful goal. I think, the communication in general is just, it's such a it's a critical skill, and I think there are a lot of people out there in the situation that you're in, which is they struggle to speak up and to negotiate on their own behalf and to say what needs to be said. And I think for anybody out there listening who is in that situation, to recognize that you're not doing anybody else any favors um, by letting your needs go unsaid, and you're not doing yourself any favors either, because so often that it leads to, we feel, resentful either towards the other person because they haven't respected us, because we haven't, kind of communicated that we need to be respected, or, we feel guilt or shame, and it's learning to stick up for yourself and to be able to put your thoughts on the table in the way that they need to be is such a useful skill, not only for yourself but for everybody around you. So it's wonderful that you're in that process right now, and you're seeing some progress.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else that we haven't spoken about that you'd like to talk about or mention? Uh, any message you wanted to give anybody else out there who might be struggling in the same position that you have been in?
I think to the people who are in same position as me, I would like to tell them that keep swimming, uh, because it's very important to just not put us full stops to where when we are growing and we see challenges and we put a full stop there and saying this doesn't work for me. But instead of that, if you find ways to ask for help, and if you find ways to just um, work around it, I think um, maybe in 1 year or 6 months from where they're sitting, it would be a wonderful journey when they look back.
What a wonderful message to put out there. Yeah, totally agree. That's wonderful. Yeah, so anybody out there listening who, if you resonate with Kavya's story, if you're ready to develop your own assertive communication style, please feel free to apply for the Speak to Lead program, which is designed for multicultural professionals. And the link for that is in the description. Once again, thank you, Kavya, for coming on and sharing your story and your process so far and progress. It's wonderful. I can't wait to see, have a chat in a couple of months' time and see how things have progressed, or 6 months' time, and we'll see where you're at and how how your journey has gone.
Thank you. Thanks, Joel. I think it was a wonderful podcast because, yeah, this is my first time in my entire entire career or in my lifetime that I'm doing a podcast. So, yeah, it was wonderful.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, Kavya.
Thank you.